On the question of fighting for our priorities, there is a stark contrast between me and my opponent. He speaks in generalizations about the virtues of free enterprise and how government has overstepped his interpretation of the Constitution. But listen closely tonight, because what lies behind those words is an extreme right-wing ideology that would limit opportunity for the middle class and set North Carolina and our country back for decades. For example, my opponent wants to eliminate the Department of Education. And she says, I can't think of one good thing that comes out of it. Nothing of pulling the U.S. out of the UN, militarizing the southwest border, and refusing to take a stand on don't ask, don't tell. Now, the Patient Protection Act, which I have supported, is not perfect. I would have liked to have had a public option to bring costs down further, for example. But his position is part and parcel of a position that would require us to withdraw from the United Nations, would send those troops, bring them home and send them down to the Mexican border.
Thank you, Congressman.
Militarize the border. That's a great idea. Well, as a matter of fact, that's a lot of what's wrong with our politics. Too much smoke and mirrors around the federal budget. We, in fact, finally cut through that. We, in fact, finally cut through that in the 1990s. We balanced our budget. Now, when you're in an economic downturn of this severity, the worst since the Great Depression, of course you have to do some things to get out of it. It is going to require some plan for dealing with the 11 million people who are here illegally already, many of them working, and of course they can't all be deported. We need to have a plan where people have worked hard, have paid taxes, have behaved themselves, that they're on a case-by-case basis they can go to the back of the line and work their way to legal status. We also need to enforce the law. Enforce the law with employers and enforce the law at our borders. On that, I do have some credentials because I'm chairman of the Homeland Security Appropriations Subcommittee. And under my leadership, we have increased the Border Patrol presence at the southwest border by 60%. We have undertaken various measures on an emergency basis, actually, this past summer, various measures to deal with the threat of cartel violence. We have a problem at the border. We have gone dangerously into debt in this country in the last 8 years, and we simply must, for reasons that I stressed earlier, we must climb our way out. So it's really a worse situation than it was back in the 90s when we balanced the budget. Having said that, it is a sacred obligation to stand by the promises we've made in Social Security. Using terms like Ponzi scheme don't help. The U.S. Treasury has never defaulted on a bond, and we're not going to start now. So yes, when Social Security was running a surplus, it bought Treasury bonds. Those are as good as gold. But there are long-term challenges. Those are long-term challenges that must be addressed, and I trust will be addressed.
Thank you, Congressman Price. Dr. Lawson, you have 30 seconds.
With all due respect, calling a Treasury bond good as gold kind of ignores the fact that gold is over $1,300 an ounce. commodities open lock limit up today because everyone's looking and knowing who's buying these Treasury bonds. This Federal Reserve is now the second largest holder of U.S. Treasury bonds. Folks, we are in extremely dangerous water.
It was Mr. Lawson's friend Rand Paul and the chairman of or the ranking member of the House Commerce Committee who said BP was being unjustly put upon. No way, no way. We need to enforce the law and we need to have strong
Question, please.
And by the way, my opponent's on record as opposing any limits. He doesn't like PACs, he says, but he opposes any limits on what individuals can give to campaigns. In other words, welcome Rupert Murdoch, come in and buy a candidate.
Thank you, Congressman Price.